Greetings.
Greetings.
How's it going?
Doing well. And yourself?
I'm well. Yeah.
Well, welcome to this special episode of The Chinese Alchemist.
Greetings.
Here I am with my friend Ben Garrett, wonderful person, filmmaker, photographer.
Thank you.
Creative. Today we're going to be talking about the Hue meditation.
Yeah.
And also our experiences with it,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the way that Mark Sims did it a couple days ago, a group meditation designed to call down the ETs.
Yeah.
So Ben, you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting week in Sedona. We've had a lot of extraterrestrial aficionados. We had a seminar the other day with a lot of ET experts. I wish I remembered the brother's last name, Todd, which he allegedly was in a ship for a few days. His experience was actually in eastern Arizona. He was gone for a few days, and he was a lumberjack, and his lumberjack crew was getting investigated by police for his disappearance, only for him to appear a few days later. And Alan Steinfeld, an expert in UFOs for a while, he recently wrote a book getting a lot of experts to write essays, and it was all included in one book.
Yeah, let me actually pull that book.
Yeah.
Shout out to our friend Alan Steinfeld. Here's his book, Making Contact. You
Yeah.
can order it on Amazon and local bookstores and online bookstores near you.
Yeah. Yeah, we were really lucky to have him explain a lot of stuff to us. One of those things, which I think is very important, was that contact first happens internally, telepathically, emotionally. And if we do want to be emissaries for these galactic families of light, that comes down to us being an appropriate vessel for that to come through, you know?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's touch a little bit more about like making contact within. Okay, so that's in stark contrast to what we were doing with Mark Sims with the Hue meditation down on the canyon, right? So we were in a group, it was nighttime, everything was pitch black. However, we were seeking outside of ourselves to make contact. We were not looking within, even though we were meditating.
Yeah. So I think it's important to note that we live in a vast universe, and that universe isn't limited to what we call physical. So in physics, we have theory that there's many physical planes, and what's physical to us might be abstract to another race. They might exist on another plane of existence. Ghosts are a very good example of that, you know, where they almost come through physical. You can see almost their form, but it's not actually physical. So a lot of encounters, you know, you have aliens walking through walls, or people are staring and they're looking at the wall, and then it's not even that they come through the wall, it's that they concentrate finally into a physical form out of nowhere. So it's like they're coming out of nowhere. What is the word? I don't know. Coagulating into this form.
Coagulation or amalgamation.
Yeah. Like materializing.
Coalescing, yeah. From the ethereal into the physical. This is something Sarah Adams, we both know her. She talks about how the material form is the 3D. It's lower frequency, more dense. And the higher frequencies, everything's light. Right. And that's why we have things like 5D rainbow light meditations, golden light activations, things like that, where everything's ethereal, everything's light-based.
For sure.
And that's where the terms like enlightenment comes from. They're literally becoming of the light.
Yeah. Yeah, so these beings, they're much more advanced. They have been around longer than us, so they've had more opportunity to raise their vibration as a species, evolve, possibly leave this plane. For example, the Mayans, no one knows where they went. They disappeared without a trace. A lot of theory is that they evolved and they went to another plane. So to make contact, a lot of the experts say it's a telepathic inward experience, you know, and that's why you have channels Sarah Strong was over here the other day with that ET roundtable. Channels. Sarah Adams, of course, very strong channel. And it's not that they're necessarily having a plane or a ship come out of the sky and they go on the ship, but they go in the nighttime and they go in these ships, or it's inward experiences that are drawing them closer to such beings, and it's through them deciding to be better people and to be more noble, more pure, which of course opens those channels because these are high resonant beings. There's more of a contact made when we raise in vibration.
Exactly. And speaking of which, raising up the vibration, another thing that definitely raised my vibration a couple days ago was when we went to Sedona Quantum Consciousness. Shout out to Jonathan Rickard and to Mark Simchak. They had a Tesla coil machine, and during that group meditation, I really felt the pulsating light and the energy from that coil just emanate outwards, and I felt my frequency go up so much higher.
Yeah.
So that's just simple things like that can really take us to the next level.
For sure. Yeah, like choosing the right diet, because certain diet will bring a lot more light into our body. Certain thoughts. Joe Dispenza, always talking about how every thought has its own vibration, its own chemical correspondent, anti-inflammatory or inflammatory. Basically, by choosing the right thoughts, we become less material, higher vibration, and as we do that, we make ourselves more known. So in initiatic science, I was told that it's like we live in this vast cosmic ocean, and the Earth is not necessarily a very vibrant, enlightened planet. And by choosing certain thoughts, certain emotions that are high vibrational, we turn this light quality on, and we become brighter and brighter. Beings, whether they're angelic or extraterrestrial, see that, and that is how we gain notice from them. And so the master I follow, Om Ram, says, focus on light as if your very life depends on it. This brings positive presence towards you, the presence of benevolent extraterrestrials, angelic beings, elementals, even dragon-like wild, powerful beings. They're attracted to light. They say, wow, he's doing our job for us, which is to bring this light. Let's throw him a bone. Let's come and support him. Let's hang out with him. And it's a very big part of the game, to draw light towards you. And then this entourage. You have to imagine who hangs out in the dark and who hangs out in the light. Benevolent forces in the light, sinister forces who don't want you to be aware of them, chill in the dark recesses of our consciousness. So when we do bring that light in, we start to repel negative forces, bring in positive forces, and those positive forces bring an entourage with them. So it's important.
Exactly. It reminds me of a story of a yogi who took 1,000 hits of LSD.
Yeah.
It didn't affect him at all.
Yes.
He was so of the light.
For sure.
That didn't affect him. All the spirits that came in were all still light beings and benevolent, because he was so on the right path spiritually that nothing dark could touch him, because light repels all the darkness. Perfect love casts out all fear.
Yeah, presence and absence. It's one of the most important themes in spirituality, because as you just look at the magnetism, look at life itself. You have running water. Running water. What is in the presence of running water? A lot of nourishment because of the spring, and things around it grow. But you go look at stagnant water, and in the absence of running water, pests and mosquitoes and mosses and all these things are born out of it. And so you look at presence and absence. Presence of light creates such a different scenario, and the absence of light creates such a different scenario. So when we focus on just creating the right presence in our body, just radically different things come.
Exactly. And then, speaking of light, the day after, I thought it was interesting. We saw a bunch of lights in the sky that could have been starships, or it could have been Elon Musk's Starlink. We're not quite sure. Just go into the sky, and several of our friends reported the same thing, like dozens and even hundreds of specks of light going out. But this was after 3 days of meditating. 3 days of meditating with Mark Sims out on the canyon in the darkness. We saw these pulsating beams of light come 2 days in a row, 2 nights in a row. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just found that very interesting.
Yeah. Why didn't they come the 3 days? We had 50-ish people on the side of a mountain in Sedona, where it's very famous star sightings.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah, for sure. And then it just reminds me of our other friends here in Sedona, Reverend John Polk, Chris Dunn, all of these other UFO tour guides, and they point, their job is that they guarantee UFO sightings every night. However, some of them have actually expressed doubt to me that they're actually UFOs, because we know that there's tens of thousands of satellites, if not more, in the night sky that are artificial, man-made, and they're not UFOs, but they might look like UFOs. So it's interesting that would happen. And so it raises like a question of, like, I wouldn't say doubt, but kind of authenticity. You know, what is real? Are we seeing what we actually believe that to be seeing?
Yeah.
Are they actually UFOs, or are they satellites? Who knows?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, they said that the pyramids, for example, were built on higher dimensions and slowly trickled down to this 3D world. With the whole thing of aliens often, you know, walking through walls, are they even of this dimension? I believe when we're ready, they reveal themselves. When they find it useful, perhaps if they reveal themselves too early, it changes your evolutionary path. For them to show up, for an angel or an extraterrestrial to walk through your world, you will forever be changed. Perhaps it's not time for them to show themselves. Perhaps it is. How come people who are not even interested at all in UFOs get these experiences, and people who are so interested in UFOs look and look and look, and it doesn't happen?
It's because of, in my opinion, it's because of the law of attraction. They need to see proof. And so that's why the universe doesn't give it to them. It's a feeling of scarcity. It's a feeling of lack.
Yeah.
And that repels these extraterrestrials, these light beings, these elementals, these aliens, these whatever they are, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this this beautiful story that was told to me of a medicine man who called in a rainstorm in the 90s during a drought in the Southwest where we live. And he brings a brother out to this medicine circle deep in the mountains of New Mexico, and he stands in it for just moments, faces the 4 directions, and that's all he does. He steps out, he says, "I'm hungry, let's go get a burger." And the brother's like, "Aren't you supposed to do some wild ritual? Aren't you supposed to do some crazy stuff?" And he's like, "No, let's just go." The next 2 days, tons and tons of rain clouds, storm clouds come to the southwest. So the brother calls him, "What did you do? How did you pray for rain? How did it come?" And he said, "I didn't pray for rain. What I did is I saw corn stalks growing. I saw children playing in the corn. I felt mud in my feet. I felt rain on my face. I heard the laughter of children." All these instances created charges in his body. And rather than saying, "Please come rain," affirming the absence of rain, the same way we say, "Please come aliens," affirming that they're not in the skies, that they're not in our heart right now, because we are all connected. That's why making contact happens first, inside. You start to match the charge. You start to match you feel their presence. You confirm their existence to yourself. This is all saying to the universe, I feel their presence. I am available for them to show up. And that's the same way they are able to show up. But if you're saying please and all that, you know, come on, you know, that's not the energetic match that is going to allow them to show up. That's telling them that they're not there. It's telling the universe they're not there. It's telling the universe you're not available for them. That's a big aspect to why they didn't show up those 3 nights, and then 2 nights in a row afterwards we see 100 lights in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard reports of people who are contacted by aliens, and what they all have in common, a lot of these people, they do acts of self-care. You know, they meditate, they might pray, they might do some like cleansing ritual with sage and Palo Santo, whatever. But these people, they do it regularly. And that expression of self-love tells the universe that, look, I care about myself, I love myself. And so these extraterrestrials take notice.
Yeah.
Like, this repeated self-care rituals that they do, cold plunges, whatever it might be, they're like, hey, this guy really loves himself, let's give him some love too.
For sure. Yeah, at this seminar the other day, Bridget Nielsen, who's been in this field for a while, her experience was that by becoming a better human, that's actually the way more extraterrestrials make contact. And think about it like this. You know, you hang around the crowd that's similar to you. So if you're taking care of yourself, benevolent forces, of course, are like, he's taking care of himself, he's taking care of others, let's hang out with him. He's doing our job, let's start to support him in that way. And if you're not taking care of yourself, I can imagine that if you do make contact with someone, it might be more of a negative alien, a reptilian, a gray. People who don't care to come where they're invited. But as you start to take care of yourself, this is more of this invitation for more benevolent, more positive energies to show up. And whether that energy is a soul, as in an extraterrestrial with a soul, or that energy is just another beneficial energy, that starts to have an avenue, a way to get into you. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you're more dense, and they can't necessarily come in because you're not doing the invitation properly. You might not even be inviting them at all. Benevolent forces do not come where they're not invited. Sinister forces don't care. And if you do see an alien, it might not be a positive one.
Might not be. That's right. So as we continue on our life paths, just realize that the first step towards ET contact is self-love, self-care, and then from that, care about others. And when they see that you're reaching that point of universal love of all beings, they're like, hey, this guy's pretty cool. He loves everyone, so he'll probably love us too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the whole, the hero's journey is a really important thing to think about every day. And that is that if you break down literature and you break down legends across the world, you break down every single movie, there's only so many themes that are spoken of and that are perceived by our consciousness. There's only so many ways that we evolve. And a lot of that comes through our relationships. A lot of that comes through, you know, person versus person, or person versus self, person versus external theme. And when you start to just face the challenges in your life, you grow. And so as we do that, we rise in consciousness. And as we don't do that, we stay lower in consciousness. We stay where we're at or even lower. And these beings wanting our fullest expression, fullest embodiment, fullest evolution, they don't want to enable us. For instance, there's friends of mine that don't help themselves. And there's this natural thing in me that doesn't want to give handouts to them. Because it's like, if I give this person a handout, they're not only going to expect more from me, but they're not doing the work to be powerful on their own. And so these beings that want us to be beautiful, amazing, strong beings on our own, they're like, dude, our hands are tied. We cannot help you because you won't help yourself. So as we choose to become our fullest expression, they're like, well, makes sense to help this dude out. And think about this. Do you hang out with kindergartners?
Usually no. Yeah.
No. It's just not, it's not like on the same level of us. It doesn't necessarily make sense. When it's convenient, sometimes, you know, kindergarten walks in our face and we say some cool stuff and we go along our way. We impart some wisdom onto them. But we typically don't hang out with kindergartners. So these beings, you know, just because we're human does not mean we can have these radical expansive thoughts that are beyond our sense of time, beyond our sense of our body, beyond our sense of our environment and space. Mm-hmm. And we start to like go to these higher thresholds of energy. That's their normal. That's their regular. So as we start to meet them where they hang out with consciously, energetically, it makes sense for them to commune with us regularly, because it's more of like, oh, you're cool. I resonate with you. But if we're down here, it's like, it just doesn't have that same energetic match, you know?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So it's like attracts like, and if we're not on their level, they're not like us. Mm-hmm. And they don't resonate.
They still love us because they're very benevolent. Mm-hmm. They have mercy, and they have, they want to help us out. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's like, when I talk to a baby, it's like, I wish you knew everything I knew at your age. Mm-hmm. When you talk to a dog, you want to like explain human stuff to them, but it just doesn't come, you know?
Exactly. It's like that movie Arrival, you know, the aliens come in and they try to communicate with humans in their language, but it takes the humans like months, if not years, to decipher everything. Yeah. And then they realize that all time is connected. Yeah. Time isn't real.
And that's the powerful gift of meditation. And that's why you see like people like Rumi. Rumi was in solitude a lot. And his poetry, although so simple, it's like you read one of those poems and you just liberate yourself from these false paradigms. You're like, wow, this is profound. But for him to get there, he had to spend a lot of time out of his body. They said that he would just stand and walk around this pillar, and that got him in this like trance. And in that trance, he's just in these amazing thought streams. So we have to like sit in meditation and free ourselves again from the body, from our sense of time and the environment, and then we get into this higher aspect of who we are. Because in initiatic science, they talk about how we exist on many, many planes, these celestial, etheric planes. And it's actually the mind and heart are considered the lower bodies. And the physical body is one of the lower bodies. And so they say the brain is the house of ordinary thought. The heart is actually the house of ordinary emotion. And that we have a higher heart, and we have a higher brain. And through meditation, we get on these places called the causal plane, the atmic plane, the Buddhic plane. And these aren't so important to know the Buddhic and these titles, but it is important to start to raise in vibration, and we start to pierce through the veil of these planes, you know, and become more prevalent to us.
Exactly. I like that phrase, piercing the veil. You know, it's like in Vedic texts, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example. Bhagavad Gita, they're like, we're piercing through the veils of the Maya. We're lifting all the veils of illusion. And in this matrix that we live in, everything is illusion. It doesn't matter if we take the red pill or the blue pill, because all it leads to is different forms of illusion, the Maya. And as we lift the veils are lifted, and we see that we are living in a virtual reality simulation.
Yeah. I mean, it's very plausible. I'm very thankful I had got the opportunity to read a little bit of The Law of One. Have you ever checked that out?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Beautiful book.
I've read a little bit of it, yes.
Yeah, apparently it's channeled from the Raw Collective. Shout out Arcturus Raw, our brother from the Raw Collective. In this book, they say that the first thing, they call it the first cause. And it's just like kind of God becoming aware of himself, herself, itself. And then it starts to distort itself. And this distortion is for purpose of expression and discovery and play. And so I'm going to say a few things. So spirit is first. Spirit is that one. Spirit distorts itself into soul. You know, our friend Sarah Adams, she's always talking about how she's part of this like Elohim collective, some of the first souls of God. And these souls are very powerful and they're very ancient, you know. And then there's newer souls. But it starts to distort itself into souls. And say I was a female in my last life. My soul came into a body and it was a female. And I go through different soul initiations for the purpose of fun, expression, and evolution. But that's not necessarily relevant to this lifetime. So that's why it distorts itself again. I'm now Ben, I'm now male, and I have these different experiences based on this lifetime. So your soul, let's say like this, it goes from spirit to soul to ego. And your ego is a tool of expression of your soul. Your soul is a divine reflection, a unique reflection of the divine spirit of God. So it's a lot about, moving up from ego to soul to spirit. Spirit is all things at all times, and that's who you and I indefinitely are at all times. But for fun, we come into Maya. And for relevance, we come even into more Maya. And it's a very careful game we play as we associate, and how do we also disassociate? When is it relevant to look around and to find meaning, and when is it relevant to go beyond meaning and to go back to this place of perfection which we exist in at all times?
Exactly. Like that reminds me of one of the very first meditations I've done, which is that I am not my body, I'm not my mind, I am the witness. So just a reminder that we are so much more than what we are, what we see in our physical bodies.
Yeah.
On the 3D plane
For
of
sure.
reality. We have so much more. We're not our emotions, we're not our thoughts. We're so much more than that.
Yeah. So there's this great importance of us regaining our power. Because it's funny how, when you're in 5th grade, the 6th graders are so much more advanced. And when you're in 6th grade, the 7th graders are so much more advanced. But then when you're a 7th grader, you're like, oh, this ain't so much different. This ain't such a pedestal. We're doing the same thing with aliens. And so we have to start to understand, whoa, okay, I'm spirit. All beings exist in me right now. Maybe not in my soul. My soul is a unique being. But beyond my soul is the one and only being that exists. And so from there, if you start to try to make every action come from spiritual awareness, not just soul awareness, not just higher self-awareness, but your perfection of all things, you are the totality of all things in all moments. And if you start from there, that is so much more advanced place to be, and so much more secure place to be, and you don't feel lack, and you don't feel weakness, and all that stuff. Then there's not as much importance on needing to make contact. Contact will come more naturally because, again, all those corresponding themes. I'm empowered, I'm evolved, I'm a light. And what comes as a natural byproduct of that? Beings come to you because they know where you are, because your light is shining. Beings respect you. And they not only respect you, they know that you're doing the benevolent jobs of the universe. So beings who are in the Quran, it says, as you pray for your brother, an angel prays for you in the exact manner that you pray for your brother. And the example they give you is if you pray for your brother to get a wife, an angel prays for you to get a wife. So when you are putting good faith in the universe, okay, I want this dude to succeed, I want this dude to be relieved of suffering, beings come to do that exact thing for you. So your job is to just live a positive spiritual lifestyle and not to be so focused on crazy phenomenon happening. That comes as a natural byproduct of just living that lifestyle.
Yeah. So that's why it's like grounding techniques, like grounding sacral meditations, like earthing, all these things that I've explained in my other videos are so important, right? Because they help us stay grounded. Even working a 9-to-5 job, that's grounding. You know?
Right.
So you can relate to your fellow man instead of being all up here all the time. So we were discussing how being grounded is very important. And one other thing I wanted to mention off of that point you just mentioned about how when you pray for someone else, another being does the same thing to you. I've seen it here in Sedona because Sedona is an energy vortex, right? So then, like we're here energetically spiraling up and spiraling down, and it happens like instantaneously. I'll give you an example, right? When I'll do something at my job that's nice for someone else, and immediately someone else will do the exact same thing to me. Like I'd cook a meal for someone, and then someone else would cook a meal for me instantaneously.
Yeah.
Or I'd get someone a job, and then someone would refer me to a job. It's like it happens like this, and it might happen slower for you, or for people who are like at lower frequencies, when the manifestation doesn't come so readily, however, it will come. Like that's one of the basic laws of the universe.
Yeah, and everyone's so focused on law of attraction, manifestation, but not always they're focused on alignment and dharma, life path. You know, for instance, with the Hue meditation, everyone was calling for aliens, but they didn't necessarily have the appropriate place in their life for it to be shown. They might have had other things that needed to be shown for them to honor that such experience. And so when we're asking for money, when we're asking for this, when we're asking for that, is it appropriate to be given to us right now? Would it make us harder workers? Would it make us better lovers? Would it make us more honorable spiritual warriors and spiritual teachers? Or would it do the opposite? You know? So that's something that we're always so focused on as manifestation, you know? But it's almost also, we have to think about life path and dharma. And, you know, as we're calling things in, how important is it for this current stage of our evolution?
Exactly. Like just riffing off of that, a lot of times people will want certain things, however, the divine will restrict us from having it in order to make us more on our dharma or on our spiritual path. For example, if we were to be given $10 million right now because we wanted it, then we would probably be much more lazy and complacent.
For sure. There's this phrase, I heard it from a scientist, that 1 in 10,000 people will come up with a scientific breakthrough that will change the world forever. So if you were given $10 million and God had ordained for you to have such a breakthrough, would you continue having such deep episodes in your room thinking, and in the laboratory thinking and pondering and trying to make something happen? It might change your evolution. And that's why we have sacred lack, to keep us working in a certain way and to keep us growing in a certain way.
So like if just because we want it doesn't mean that it'll be given to us. And there's a divine order to that.
For sure.
And sometimes it's just for the best of all, and you don't get what you want.
Yeah, the story in the Bible, I think this is a very relevant message. All that we can do is work for betterment, because nothing changes overnight. Well, some things do. Meaningful things don't. And we have so many habits. If you were clairvoyant and you could read the codes of someone's aura, you could probably see thousands and thousands of patterns in someone's aura. And that's not just going to change overnight. So the story in the Bible that I wanted to bring up is the story of the master, his servants, and the talents. Talents in this is regarding a sum of money. Talent is a sum of money. So he gives one, he's going to go away, this master. He's going to, okay, I'm going to entrust you with 5 talents. Let's just call it $5. I'm going to trust you with 3. I'm going to trust you with 1. So he goes away, and the two people that had multiple talents, they actually go and invest and multiply their talents. This other brother with the 1 talent buries it. But he has the option to put it in a bank for a guaranteed small incremental raise. But he doesn't. He buries it. So the master comes back, and in shock, he's like, you didn't even invest it in a bank where it had guaranteed increase. Safe guarantee increase. You buried it, and that doesn't make sense to me. Give it back. So these other brothers multiply their talents. This dude gets it taken away. So the universe really just wants us to work. It wants us to create more harmony, to more oneness, to create more goodness in the universe. And if you don't do that, there's the opportunity or the possibility that negativity will come your way if you're not working on goodness. There's a really good example as well as Greg Braden. He has a brother that had a private studio, and he was just making these brilliant songs. Greg was like, come on, release these. These are great. And the dude doesn't, only for later to hear that same song on the studio or on the radio. But it's a private studio. There's no one involved. There's no one that could possibly come leak these songs or send these songs to their friends. The theory is that there's a consciousness field, and these people, the universe wanted these songs to exist so much that the universe gave that idea to someone else. So all we're being called to do is to act on ideas, which allegedly in spiritual cultures often are called divine beings in disguise. And they want a little bit in exchange. If you get an idea, they want you to act on it. They want some faith. They want some obedience. If you see an old lady walking across the street, help her out. Because you do not know the spiritual being in disguise as an opportunity and an idea.
Exactly. That reminds me of like the creative ether from which all artists and musicians pull their ideas from. Like for example, Alexander Graham Bell, some guy had this exact same idea for the telephone like a week before he did, but then he rushed to the office and he acted on it.
Yeah, that's called the multiples phenomena. The steamboat, the telephone, or the steam engine. Multiple inventions were created weeks apart across the world, and sometimes this is in the 1700s where there's no telephone. So how is two dudes on opposite side of the world making the same thing?
It's because there's that etheric field where all of the creative ideas come from, and you pull those ideas from it. That's how things are created.
Yeah, so we're getting a little off topic, talking about beautiful things, but the whole extraterrestrial making contact. We're just being called to focus on what's relevant, and that is just making the world a better place, making ourselves a better place. We are the living temple of God. We are a hotel where spirits come and go at all times of the day. When you're depressed, there's blockages stopping benevolent beings which come in the form of positive influence into you. And you're stuck with these like tormenting beings. They say that every cell has a soul and that you have warring tribes going on. So we're being called to just focus on creating harmony within ourselves. That creates harmony outside. And when beings see that we're just doing good jobs, they're way more likely to say, okay, you deserve this upgrade of knowing I exist and getting my support. There's a careful balance where they want to come in our lives, but also they've not been invited. We need to invite them in, but we also need to honor them. And it breaks my heart when a friend doesn't honor me and he wants me to do work for him. I'm always down to help people out. But when it comes to carrying someone's load, it's almost disrespectful. So if we expect an angelic being, a spiritual being to carry a load for us, that is saying to the universe, I'm not ready to evolve. I'm not ready to hold the presence of a better world. I want you to hold the presence of a better world for me.
Yeah, and that's not gonna fly. The universe will be like, this guy's not doing the work, so we're not gonna do the work for him.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with UFO contacts. Like the people who want it but don't need it will eventually see it in due time.
Yeah.
When it's right for them.
Yeah.
And that might not be when there's a group meditation for Q going on.
For sure. Yeah. I saw people in that group snappy, aggressive, because I saw them earlier that day. They were aggressive people. You could tell by the color on their face they had a lot of toxins, and that's not to judge them. That's to note where they are in their lifestyle. And these beings, they're doing them a favor by not showing up, because they're like, dude, you got so much other stuff to focus on. If I showed up, your world would change and you would not be able to stop thinking about me. Maybe you should think about some other stuff, your health, detoxing, being a better person, not snapping at the innocent people at the seminar. All these things, like blessings in disguise to not get what you want, And it's very interesting. We saw it the next 2 nights right after the human meditation.
It's almost as if the universe was blessing us for doing the work.
Yeah, it was. It was confirmation that we were on the right path.
Yeah, just to continue what we're doing. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll add the reminder that all we can do is take advantage of every single day. The opportunities given to you in one single day is the raw matter, the building blocks in which you transform your life. That angry lady at the grocery store, that traffic jam, or that beautiful blessing. All the things that you get in one day are divine. The same way we pull tarot cards and we trust that what seems to be chance is actually divine. Trust that with your greater life. Trust that with every single thing. You know, you think you're caught in that traffic jam. Trust that that is opportunity to slow down, to ponder where you're at in your life, to ponder your blessings, to ponder your failures, to ponder everything, and to act better on what you have in your life. Every day is very sacred, and it doesn't take a UFO coming out of the sky to wake you up. You can wake up in every single moment. In the mundane moments, those are ripe, beautiful opportunities to step up, to become grateful, to see everything as a miracle rather than nothing as a miracle. A UFO is not the only miracle. Some people aren't able to breathe. Some people aren't able to walk. Some people can't even... The other day I couldn't even blink because I had a swollen eye. There's days I'm sore throat, can't even swallow without pain. There's people who are paralyzed. Start to look at everything as a miracle. Stop taking things for granted. If you stop taking things for granted, you will be able to honor such radical events as a UFO encounter as the miracle that it truly is. But also, it's not a miracle. In some cases, in star cultures, that's their everyday. So by you honoring the magic and the complex sciences of everyday life, you have the ability to honor these other bigger, greater things.
Absolutely. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you can have gratitude and honor every single mundane moment, then you're going to be at a higher vibration, higher frequency than people who take everything for granted and don't show gratitude for every single moment.
Definitely. So guys, what are you going to be grateful for today? What beings in your life are you failing to honor? Why is the extraterrestrial better than your mom, your dad? Why is the extraterrestrial more important than your friends, your coworkers? How can you start to see people as advanced, evolved, beautiful miracles? And like attracts like. When you see one dude as a miracle, two dudes as a miracle, what beauty is going to come when you start to do that?
Oh, I'm very curious. Drop a comment in the link below. Excuse me, in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Definitely. Yeah, be vocal. Thank you guys for watching. And
thanks for watching, guys. Chinese Alchemist out, Ben Garrett out. Till next time.
Can't wait till I'm back on the show.
Yeah, you'll be back very shortly.
Yes.
Yeah. Till next installment.
Farewell.
Farewell. Love, peace, namaste.